And it's a great honor for me today to welcome a very special guest who has traveled quite a distance to be with us and give us some new perspectives on nursing. Please give a very warm welcome to Dr. Judith Shamian, the President of the International Council of Nurses. The floor is yours. Woo.
Great. Hi. I just came from Taiwan yesterday. And in Taiwan, when you make a speech, you go up and you first bow, and then you go to the podium and you do your speech. So, hello everyone. I am delighted to be here, and I want to express my special thanks to the Danish Nurses Organization for all their support to ICN throughout the years, and their support to me during my election and the campaign, and since my election last year to become the president of ICN. ICN, as many of you will know, is an amazing organization. It's an organization that has 130 plus countries, and we speak on behalf of over 16 million nurses. Although we are not sure some days if it's 16 or 19 or somewhere in between, just because some of the challenges that we have in knowing who is a nurse and who is not a nurse in different countries. I'm so sorry that the previous speaker has left, because I think she laid the foundation for my speech. Because my speech is about the missing link from practice to global policy. And I think what she described was absolutely the symptom and the diagnosis of where are the issues. The issues are not with the work that the 16 million nurses or the 70,000 strong nurses in your country do. I think nurses doing an incredible job every day, both when you work and after and before your work. Because when you go home, you are the nurse of your family, you are the nurse of your community. People turn to you and look at you and say, oh, you are a nurse. Can I ask you about? And I'm being asked nowadays about Ebola and so on. What do I know? I've been doing management for the last 30 years. But you are a nurse. You're expected to know everything. The problem rely in the missing links in the system, which again boomerangs back to us, and we have to fix it. And that's what I would like to talk about. And I think individuals like the journalist that spoke, family members, are one of the allies that we need to make sure that we work with. That they come to these forums, we listen to them, but they also listen to us of how we can work together to make sure that we close those missing links, because it is a global challenge. While nurses is a force to that change, we need the larger community. I'm also bringing you today greetings from the ICN board, and I'm so delighted to have here your very own past ICN president. Would you stand up and let us give you a round of applause? Because you have been amazing and continue to do so. In last May in Melbourne, we were delighted to recognize and honor your own past ICN president. And the contributions that she has made are still resounding and seen every day across the world. The current board is made up of 16 individuals from 7 regions in the world, and it's an amazing group of men and women. I don't think ICN ever had so many men on the board as we have now. Again, I'm not spending a lot of time to talk about gender issues, but gender issues is one of the things that have the strength and the challenges that come with it. And as I go across the world, I see male nurses emerging to leadership positions, and that's great. I don't see that their leadership is proportionate to their numbers in nursing. And I think part of the missing link, and when I talk further about the bubbles and so on, remember the gender issue. In my brief time with you, I cannot touch on everything. But gender is one of the things that I think have led us to the point of missing links, and we need to move forward. So hallelujah for the men that are joining us, but we also have to make sure that the women have the power and the force to move forward. And you have your own leaders, whether it's Greta or others, and you set the model of how to do those things. What I want to do is to do some critical reflection. I could stand here and give you slide after slide of the challenges in the world. How many babies die every second, how many mothers die, what we need to do, and so on. But I chose to do a different kind of conversation with you, and that's a conversation around the missing links, as I keep saying. Because unless we close those missing links, issues that challenges us, whether it's the death rate from chronic illnesses or the lack of integration in the system, as we heard before, and so on, that's really the root cause of the problem. That's the core diagnosis that then lead to all of the other symptoms, and we need collectively to figure out how to fix the core problems. And in some ways, and I was really playing with the notion, but it picked up momentum, and people keep saying to me, talk about the bubble theory. There is no such thing. It's something that I invented over the last few months because I was looking for a way to describe what I've been seeing and what I've been grouping. And as a scholar, I like theories, and I like something to organize my thinking. So the bubble theory it is. And basically the bubble theory has 4 bubbles. There is a nursing bubble, there is a healthcare bubble, there is a regional and national bubble, and there is a global bubble. And the nursing bubble means exactly what you hear. It's all of the nursing groups that live in the nursing bubble. And that could be the different specialties, the different organizations, it could be academics. Whatever is a nursing form is within that nursing bubble. The healthcare bubble goes into whether it's home care, primary health care, hospital, rehab, long-term care, you name it, it's more in that healthcare bubble, and it could touch on bureaucracies and structures at the regional government level, but it's all within the healthcare arena, not even in public health policy, but it's more the healthcare arena. Then we talk about the regional and national bubble. And we often forget that a lot of what being done in a country level touches on health issues and have an impact. So what the finance minister decides to give the budget to the healthcare has an immediate impact on the healthcare bubble. But policies that being decided on what cars or what roads or what trains, being in a train station, you're going to use has a health impact. I was talking once to a group of deputy ministers in one of the countries, and I said every policy that the government looks at needs to be examined from the health perspective. And one of them said, you know, I am responsible for transportation in this country, and I am not in a business of moving people. I'm in the business of making sure that they move safely. And I think we should never forget that there is that global issue that deals with healthcare. And if you think about it, research shows that only 20% of our health status depends on the healthcare system. I know we nurses want to believe that all of our health status is dependent on us. But you know what? The education, the housing, the income that you have and so on have a very large impact. And then the global bubble, which is organizations like the World Health Organization, World Bank, and many others. Interestingly enough, this week as we stand here, the World Health Organization of the European region is meeting in Copenhagen, and many of their issues have an impact of how our care will look like down the road. And the challenge and the question for us, where is nursing in all of it? So where is the missing link? So I kind of organized the color purposefully, and I am suggesting to you that in the nursing bubble, we do pretty good. It's a go. We have spent the last 30 years in developing research, in developing the profession. We have worked on our identity. Yes, there is more to do, but we are doing pretty good. When it comes to the healthcare bubble, we are engaged in some level. Not as much as we would like to. It's kind of yellow, but it's not bad. But when it comes to the regional and the global bubbles, very hard to find nursing voice and nurses' impact. When I go around the world and look at politicians, for example, inevitably you find a lot of doctors who are politicians. You find very, very fewer nurses who are politicians. And if we find a few, then we celebrate that because it's so exciting. The same goes into organizations like the World Health Organization, the World Bank, and so on. If you start to see how many nurses work in those places, the numbers are sinking. But then they make policies, whether it's on TB or chronic illness, or whether it's about funding decisions, or how they're going to, what conditions the World Bank will put on the European countries in order to manage the economic crisis. And there are no nurses around that discussion, and we then don't understand how come in Spain there are 15,000 unemployed nurses. And if we are not in those bubbles, we cannot expect others to know our reality and be able to explain. So when the lady before me talked about the fragmentation of care, I guarantee you that when care in your country was discussed and planned and funded and financed, there weren't too many nurses around the table that said, excuse me, is that the same person that's going to go from the hospital to the community, to the hospice, back to acute care, and so on and so forth? How do we manage that connectivity? So I think that notion of having the missing link in the regional, national, and the global bubble, and the healthcare bubble is something that should worry every one of us. And it should worry us if you are a staff nurse in an emergency room, if you are a nurse in home care, or if you are the president of the Danish nursing organization. It's all of our business. It's not just my business as your president. It's not just Greta's business as your president. It's not Anne's business as your director general. It's all of our business. And it's only when we wake up to those issues we can start to say, okay, what's the treatment plan? How are we going to fix those things? So here is some of the things that ICN has done and thinking about to moving that forward. We just released our strategic plan for 2014 to 2018. And in good ICN fashion, I first received a document of 100 pages. And I said, no. We don't work on 100 pages. We need a succinct message, because no person that you're trying to influence will listen to 100 pages or 20 pages. If you cannot say it in a minute, you are done. So basically, this is after a lot of hard work of the staff and the board, and this is the strategic plan. And it's on the website, and it's very simple. We're saying we have a major problem. We have to have a global voice. We have to have strategic leadership. We have to have policy impact. And the diversification, it has to do with the fact that ICN needs more money. So put that aside for a minute. In order for us to do 1, 2, and 3, we need to figure out how to get more money so we can go to places. So if I look at the meeting in WHO in Copenhagen this week, I happening to go there on Wednesday to speak to the ministers because I was invited to talk about the value of nursing. But if we don't have the resources with all the best intentions, we need to figure out how to deal with the first 3 things. So in order to deal with the missing links, we need to understand how to be a global voice. And there are a lot of you here, and time is running out, so I'm not going to go through the exercise. I usually ask people, how many of you know politicians? How many of you given some messages to them in the last 3 months? And it's sad to see how few of the responses I get. We have to do the strategic leadership and think of the gender issue. We need to have the confidence, whether you are a male or a female, to be able to stand up and say to whoever it is the message that you need to communicate in a constructive way, not in a derogatory way, not in a pissing on you way, but in a way that says, here is what's the issue, and here is how nursing can contribute and wants to work with you on the issues. And again, I could spend here another hour to talk about how we have been doing it, but that's been my reason for crisscrossing the world and trying to do as much of taking that voice out as possible. All of that talking and all of that voice is worthless if we cannot impact on policy. So that's very nice. Judith Shamian met with the president of the World Bank or the World Health Organization. Yay! Nonsense. If we cannot move the yardstick to have an impact and influence the policy, it's a waste of time and money and oxygen. So it's that notion that we all have to look at how we're going to get it to the impact level to deal with the missing links. So the global health agenda, have your pick. In the global arena and regional arena, and if you look at when you go home, you can look at the website of WHO. The regional director, Dr. Jacob, just talked today. She talked about health promotion and other things. Everybody talks about the Millennium Development Goals, the post-2015, non-communicable diseases, universal health coverage, primary health care, mental health, and the emerging infectious diseases. So what are some of the key messages? And it is, in some ways, unfortunate that the key messages have to shift, but we have to learn to talk the language that will allow us to have policy impact. So the message, and that's the message I am taking in a more elaborate way on Wednesday to WHO, to the ministers, is that nurses and nursing have economic impact and value, clinical care impact and value, cost-benefit impact and value, and social impact and value. And again, I can spend an hour on this, but which I'm not going to. But the bottom line is that until now, what we are comfortable, if we speak, is to talk about the clinical care impact. We care, we are the backbone, we are the heart, we are 24/7, all of those things. You know, we are everywhere from cradle to grave. Guess what? They don't care. That's not what gets them to do the policies we need. We need to start to talk about the economic value. Why nursing is an investment and not a cost. Why should governments think of nursing as a valuable resource? Why should they worry if 2 of your nurses or 100 of your nurses decide to move to another country? What is the loss to the well-being of the country, the economic value, the productivity, and so on? Imagine the productivity impact if you avoid 10 amputations a month. And we all know diabetes is a big issue. Who can do the education? Do you think that the endocrinologist is going to tell the patient how to cut their nails to avoid infection? I don't think so. Do you think that it will be the doctor who will tell the patient how to cook the meal or how to manage a diet for an Italian family that lives on pasta? I don't think so. So unless we understand and can talk about the economic impact, so if you avoid 5 of those 10 amputations, those people will be able to work, they will be able to pay taxes, and they're not going to be a financial burden on the country to help them. So we need to merge the bubbles. And merging the bubbles happens in many different ways. And again, I think, as I said, I've been spending the last 14 months with having various conversations, discussions, changing agendas, working on policies in different forums. And again, I'm not going to go into a lot of that discussion. Last Thursday, for example, I met with President Ma, who is the president of Taiwan. And the drill with President Ma, it's the second time I meet with him, and he's an amazing individual. He makes a speech to the media in Taiwanese, then they leave, and then he and I and the other people having a great chat. But don't fool yourself for a minute. It has to be a strategic chat. And what he says to the media is essential, because that's his commitment. And one of the things in Taiwan that it's a problem is nurse-patient ratio. So his comments around the nurse-patient ratios were very valuable, because that's the commitment that then he makes on behalf of his government. But what do I say to him in our chit-chat? The comment to him, he has 2 more years in office. After that, he cannot run again. He ran twice. I said to him, congratulations, President. This is amazing. And there were other conversations. But your legacy will be determined based on the implementation of those policies. So to say that they are moving forward and they're doing this, that, again, talk is cheap. And he doesn't need to get reelected. So if he doesn't deliver, doesn't deliver. But your legacy will be dependent on whether you can do it or not. And I believe, based on getting to know him and his integrity, he will deliver. But it's not enough just to be a kind of saying, this is amazing, blah, 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 but keep holding them accountable. What you do in this region is fabulous. And this is an example of how a region gets together, have the conversations, and I'm really excited that I will be joining the presidents tomorrow and having a strategic conversation with them about how the region works and how it supports both Europe and some of the African and the ICN agenda, and how can we work together, because it's working together that will make a difference. And I'm coming toward the end of my comments. In the global bubble, again, I think ICN's relationship with WHO has not been what I would have liked it to be. And then with some other organizations, we had no relationship. Again, if we want to have a voice and a policy impact, we cannot be a global organization without a relationship with the World Bank. And some of you will say, why the World Bank? It's a bank. Yes, it is a bank. It's a bank that lends money to countries, which is great. But it says to the countries, if you don't do 1, 2, 3, and 4, we're not giving you the money. And a lot of that 1, 2, 3, 4 have to do with downsizing the public expenditures. And guess on the back of who that happens? On back of nursing, on back of education, and so on. ICN needs to get engaged, because only when you build relationship, it's not enough to send them a position paper, even if it's only 1 page. They don't care. But if you build a relationship and you say, here are some solutions, we understand the challenge, we want to build a solution with you, all of a sudden you get a very different approach. So the strong links, the strong relationships become extremely important. ICN, as I said, and DNO, the Danish Nursing Organization, have been amazing supporters of ICN, and I thank each and every one of you for supporting your leadership to support ICN. Because if you say we don't care about ICN and it's not important, then guess what? Your president, your board, others will have to take it and listen to it. But you supporting that global commitment to work as a family together. Here are my last 3 slides. So this is a great festival, and I love the name festival. We as nurses, very good at complaining and always seeing problems, and we don't celebrate enough. Having a festival is just uplifting. I was smiling at it just like when I talk about the bubbles, and some people don't like bubbles, but I think bubbles gives you an image of happiness. So it's an amazing name, but what can you do? You can join the Missing Links and Strengthening Nursing Influence. And again, if this would be a course, I would have you write down what you could do individually. And in your mind, you might be going through that exercise, and maybe talk to your colleagues after the day is over. Move from outside the nursing bubble and share nursing knowledge and expertise with the rest of the world. We far too often talk to each other and don't talk to those that are around us, whether it's in the church, whether it's when you line up in the grocery store, or whether you go to your exercise club. We have so much to offer, and people need to see that. Make an impact on the other bubbles at the local, national, and international level. Even if you live in a community of 200 people, there must be a forum where decisions are made, and many of those decisions have an impact on the well-being of the people. Get involved. Use evidence to improve care and strengthen our position. The science that nursing has developed over the last 30, 40 years is absolutely unbelievable. And we have a lot of that science. Again, when I was in Taiwan last week, I was there for their celebration of 100th year, and they had a research conference. In the 100 posters that they had and other 30, 40 presentations, there were presentations and findings that could make a clinical and economical impact literally overnight on the country. But when I asked, what are you going to do with this amazing findings, the answer was, we're going to publish it. Great, you're going to get tenure. You're going to be a university professor. Congratulations. But it doesn't get outside of the bubble. And it doesn't make a difference where it needs to happen. Ensure that our voices are heard, and strive to become stronger leaders and lead our communities, our nations, and our populations to better health. Let's build a better tomorrow for all, because we can. Thank you, and see you all in Korea.